When CodeCatalyst was announced, one of the missing features was that there was no possibility to import your existing source code or projects or any other components into CodeCatalyst. Now there is a small way to do that, and we're going to look at how to do that in this video. This is a video that I have been wanting to record for a very long while. A few months ago, CodeCatalyst did not announce, but secretly launched the availability of a new blueprint that you can use without it being available through the UI that will empower you to import existing source code repositories into CodeCatalyst. I personally had built an initial version of this blueprint about 6 months ago. Now I'm really lucky that, and I'm really happy that I'm able to show you how you can actually use this to get your projects into CodeCatalyst. There are some caveats to it, so at the end we're also going to ask the CodeCatalyst team to implement some additional functionalities for this, as I think that there is a long way to make this more useful for the community. If you have any things that I've been missing, please add them to the show notes. And with that, let's directly jump into what am I actually talking about. So as you most probably know, you have today 3 different ways of starting a new project in CodeCatalyst. The way that you can do that, you can start with a blueprint, you can bring your own code, which is where you can link GitHub or Gitlab repositories, or you can start from scratch. Now, there is a way that is hidden and that is not visible through the UI, which you can actually use to import existing stacks, existing repositories into CodeCatalyst. So now, let's try to have a look on how this is built. And the way we start this is we're going to look at the CodeCatalyst blueprints open source project that we have. In there is packages and blueprints, and in those blueprints there is a bunch of blueprints that are kind of example implementations, but they are also available in CodeCatalyst. Today we're focusing on the launch blueprint, and this is actually the one that is going to empower us to, with a click of a URL, directly import existing GitHub repositories. Let's have a look on how the blueprint TS is built. And as you can see over here, there's a few options. You can define the source repository, the source branch, the destination repository name. You can define environments if you want to use them, and then there's some parameters as well that you can actually add. You will then see what this blueprint actually does. But before we go through the code, let's have a quick look on how this is actually going to look like. To do that, we're going to generate ourselves a URL, and this URL, we will use that to jump into CodeCatalyst and import an existing project. So I have a small snippet that I can also add to the show notes later. In this example, we're going to point the URL at the source code repository. We're going to pass the project name here of the destination, and then we're going to add some parameters as well. Something that I always try to do is I try to work with EU Central because I'm based in Germany. So let's try to pass that over here. Now, after executing this small Node.js script, I get a URL that I can now open up in my browser. Let's see what happens if I do that. So as you can see, I'm landing in CodeCatalyst. I am landing in a launch point at the end. I now go to launch with, get the overview of launch with CodeCatalyst. I can now choose the space where I actually want to start this on. And I already see that this is linked to an existing GitHub repository that you see over here, which is a project that I've been talking about in some other videos already. So please feel free to have a look on those as well. Now, if I click next, I get the option to choose whether I want to create a new project or whether I want to apply this blueprint to an existing project. To make things simpler, I'm going to go with create project for now. But it also means that if I already created my project, I could now potentially import the source code into an existing project, which is a cool functionality as well. But first, let's do the easy way, and let's name this like imported progen pipelines. We have the destination repository name. This is the one that we passed in the URL. We have an environment, which is prod environment. We can define an account connection, which I'm going to do over here. We can select the deployment role if there would be a workflow included. And as you can see, the region has been set to EU Central. Now, if I do create project, let's see what actually happens. So we are landing in our project. As you can see, there has been some stuff imported. Issues are obviously empty. There is no issues created by the blueprint. There is, however, a source repository, which essentially matches the source repository that we have on GitHub as well, as you can see. So there's a GitHub directory, there's a project, there's documentation, there's source, there's test. And this is essentially also what we see directly on GitHub, which is where we came from. Okay. We will also see that there is no workflow included in this, which actually makes sense because this project does not have any CodeCatalyst workflows available. But still, we now have the source code available. We can directly work with the source code over here. Let's see if we actually get the history for the different files. I would expect that that's not the case, right? But let's try to have a look. Okay, so there's no history. It seems like there was nothing there before. And this also means that we did not import the Git history for this. I don't think that's a problem, but sometimes it might be handy to also be able to import the Git history into this new project created from CodeCatalyst. Cool. So now that we saw how this kind of actually works in practice, let's have a look on how the code looks like and what the hell this thing is actually doing. As you can see, going back into the CodeCatalyst open source project where we have the launch with CodeCatalyst blueprint, we have the synth option, which is actually the piece that is going to be called if the custom blueprint is being executed. We can now see what happens, right? And let's walk through that code just to see how it works, right? So over here we can see that there's the Git part being executed. It actually uses the options that we have passed in the blueprint selection. So the source branch, the source repository, and obviously the title where we want this to be cloned in. It uses the usual suspects of git clone. It then clones this stuff, seems to have a timeout. So if this takes longer than 30 seconds, there's going to be a problem, I guess. We can also see afterwards that there's the Git folder is being removed. Maybe this is the place where we need to look at, can we use this to import history as well? Then this is the source codes are being copied to the new repository path where we want to actually create our source code. Now then, there's some magic happening in this blueprint. It is verifying whether there is a CodeCatalyst directory, and if yes, it's going to pass the launch options for that. So this means that I can somehow customize this as well. If I start with an existing project, so maybe that's something that we could do in Proton pipelines as well. So this is a file that you would need to be creating in your source repository. You will then see that the workflows are being verified as well. So if there is workflows, now the blueprint is going to parse the workflows and is going to create workflows in the target source repository as well. So there's some workflow matching happening. Another feature I would love to have is here the possibility to import GitHub workflows. So if I have a .github directory, I now would love the blueprint to translate that for me into a CodeCatalyst blueprint. That would be amazing. And then down here, it does some cleanup, and then it does the synthing, which will now actually generate the source code, which will then bring us to the screen that we had where the project is being created. That was a very brief look into how the source code is actually going to look like and what this actually does. And this opens up a bunch of possibilities. With that, if you have any questions on this, please let me know and get back to me in the comments. We can talk about the details of this as well. And before we wrap up, let's have a look on how would we now request changes to this one. So one of the limitations of this blueprint today is, as you saw over here, that there is no possibility to pass any authentication credentials to this. So this essentially means that you can only import public GitHub repositories. So let's try to see if we can add a feature request to extend this blueprint over here. For that, we go to custom CodeCatalyst blueprints. We click on new issue. We add a feature request, and we're gonna start describing what this actually is. Okay, so I've added some title. Enhance the launch blueprint to allow passing GitHub username and token to enable the import from private repositories, which kind of should be easy. My proposal here would be to have 2 option fields that you can use to make this happen. Additional context, well, yeah, this will allow users to import source code from private GitHub repositories. I think that makes sense. Let's try to add that and let's see what we get as a feedback from the team later. Then I'm going to add a new one, next one that I'm going to call Enhance Launch Blueprint to allow importing source code from any Git repository. And I'm going to write the description and then I'm going to continue recording. And while writing this issue that I was talking about, right, I just noticed in the code that this is actually already possible, because you can just change the URL over here, and then it would also allow you to import from any other publicly available Git repository. So I think that we don't need that feature request. So we're going to change that one, and we're going to name this Enhance Launch Blueprint to allow importing GitHub action workflows into CodeCatalyst workflows. To import existing workflows into CodeCatalyst. And this means, so the moment that the blueprint discovers existing GitHub actions, it should create a YAML file that is readable by CodeCatalyst and can be then executed as a workflow natively. And with this feature, we would then get the possibility to directly execute the workflows in CodeCatalyst as well. Cool. If you have any other ideas on what we could change in this blueprint, please let me know and add that to the comments or reach out to me separately. And with that, we're going to go over to the summary of what we did today. So today we looked at an undocumented feature of CodeCatalyst, which is called Launch with CodeCatalyst, and you can use that to import existing source code into your CodeCatalyst projects. This is a very powerful thing, as it allows you to get yourself into CodeCatalyst faster without the need of manually copy-pasting your source code into the new tool. I hope that you found this valuable, and I would love to hear your thoughts and feedback on how this could be extended. Also, if you have an idea on what I could improve, please let me know. Looking forward to share more content with you, and thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.